Imagine a warrior who wakes up every morning already prepared to die, not because he seeks death, but because only by accepting it can he truly live without fear. Imagine a society where honor is more valuable than life, where loyalty outweighs family, and where a single mistake can demand blood as payment. This is not a legend, not a movie fantasy, and not a romantic myth created centuries later. This is the true story of the samurai, the elite warrior class that ruled Japan for nearly 1,000 years and forged one of the most disciplined, ruthless, and fascinating cultures in human history. The samurai were not born as noble heroes or sword-wielding philosophers. They emerged from chaos. In early medieval Japan, central authority was weak. The emperor ruled in name only, and the countryside was plagued by banditry, rebellions, and constant conflict. Powerful landowners needed protection, and they hired warriors to defend their estates. These warriors were known as samurai, meaning those who serve, and over time they evolved into the samurai, a class defined not only by warfare, but by absolute loyalty to their lord. As centuries passed, these warriors gained power, wealth, and political influence, eventually overshadowing the imperial court itself. By the late 12th century, Japan was no longer ruled by emperors, but by military leaders, and the age of the samurai had truly begun. What separated the samurai from other warriors was not just their skill in battle, but their way of life. A samurai lived according to Bushido, the way of the warrior, a strict and unforgiving moral code built on loyalty, honor, discipline, and self-sacrifice. Bushido taught that fear was the greatest enemy, and the only way to defeat fear was to accept death as inevitable. A samurai was expected to be ready to die at any moment, without hesitation, without regret. Life was temporary, but honor was eternal. To live dishonorably was worse than death itself. If a samurai failed his lord, disgraced his family, or violated his moral code, the only way to restore honor was through seppuku ritual suicide, a deliberate and painful act meant to demonstrate courage, responsibility, and loyalty, even in death. From early childhood, a samurai's life was shaped by relentless training. Boys born into samurai families were taught that weakness was unacceptable and hesitation could be fatal. They trained their bodies through martial arts, horseback riding, archery, and swordsmanship, but their education went far beyond combat. A true samurai was expected to master calligraphy, poetry, philosophy, and history. They studied Zen Buddhism to discipline their minds, learning to remain calm in the face of violence, pain, and death. Meditation was as important as sword practice, because a distracted mind could cost lives on the battlefield. By the time a samurai reached adulthood, he was not just a fighter, but a weapon refined in both body and spirit. The symbol of the samurai was the katana, a sword unlike any other. More than a weapon, the katana was believed to be the soul of the samurai. Forged through an intricate process that combined art, science, and ritual, each blade was unique, folded and tempered to achieve strength, flexibility, and lethal sharpness. A samurai treated his sword with deep respect, believing it carried his honor and identity. To lose one's sword was a disgrace. To draw it unnecessarily was a sign of poor character. Yet when battle came, the katana became an extension of the warrior himself, capable of delivering death in a single decisive strike. Samurai warfare was brutal and personal. Battles were not chaotic clashes of anonymous soldiers, but encounters driven by reputation and honor. Samurai would announce their lineage before combat, seeking worthy opponents and glory for their clan. Over time, warfare evolved, becoming larger and more strategic, especially during Japan's long period of civil war. Castles rose across the landscape, alliances shifted constantly, and betrayal became a common weapon. Loyalty was everything, yet political survival often demanded impossible choices. Some samurai rose to legendary status, while others fell into obscurity, victims of ambition, miscalculation, or shifting power. As centuries passed, Japan gradually stabilized, and the role of the samurai began to change. During long periods of peace, especially under strict military governments, samurai became administrators, scholars, and officials rather than battlefield warriors. Yet even without war, they were expected to live by Bushido, maintaining discipline, restraint, and readiness. The sword remained at their side, a constant reminder of who they were and what they represented. Beneath the surface calm, violence was always close, restrained only by law, tradition, and fear of dishonor. The end of the samurai did not come through a great battle or heroic last stand, but through modernization. As Japan opened itself to the outside world and adopted Western technology and military methods, the samurai class was slowly dismantled. Firearms replaced swords, conscript armies replaced warrior elites, and the privileges of the samurai were stripped away. Many resisted, some rebelled, but history was unstoppable. The age of the sword was over. By the late 19th century, the samurai as a social class had disappeared. Yet the samurai never truly died. Their values survived. Discipline, loyalty, perseverance, and respect remain deeply embedded in Japanese culture. The image of the samurai still captivates the world because they represent something rare and unsettling. Humans who chose honor over comfort, duty over desire, and meaning over survival. They remind us that strength is not just physical, that courage is not the absence of fear, and that the way we face death often defines how we live. The samurai were not perfect heroes, nor were they simple killers. They were products of their time, shaped by violence, belief, and rigid ideals. And that is precisely why their story endures. Because in a world obsessed with safety and convenience, the samurai stand as a haunting reminder of a life lived with absolute conviction, where every choice mattered, every action carried weight, and every sunrise could be the last.